Um, so just give me a second. I'm just going to sort of go on YouTube to start our webinar also on YouTube. So to reintroduce Amar, Amar has an experience of 20 years in environmental education, biodiversity management after his master's in environmental science. He has worked with many corporates, NGOs, and government agencies, and he's a recognized Darwin Scholar on Biodiversity Management from Field Studies Council, United Kingdom. Currently, he is associated with Godrej for his mangrove conservation, and he's going to tell us more about that towards the end of it, I hope so. So, as I mentioned, please ask your questions in the Q&A box and ask them as they come to your mind so that Amar can answer them towards the end of the session. We'll be taking all these questions at the end of it. So both of us are going to go off video right now, and I'm going to start share screen and share Amar's slides. So let me start that. Over to you, Amar.
All right. Thanks. Thanks, Prasad. So we are starting with our presentation. Yeah, Prasad, you can come to the next slide. So, these days there is this debate very often, like who is really a true Indian? And when I think about it, I always somehow think that wildlife is really a true Indian, because there are several plants and animals and birds in India which are endemic, which means that they are found only in India. They are not found in any other country. And there are almost 50-55 bird species that are endemic to India. As some of you are aware that India is one of the top 10 mega biodiverse countries, the United Nations has selected some countries based on the richness of the wildlife it has. And we are obviously among top 10. And so this was perfect day to have this talk also, because when we talk about endemic bird day, obviously it comes to the species which are confined area. And when it comes to birds, today is also International Bird Day or International Migratory Day. So great, Prasad. This was a perfect day to do the presentation. Yeah, Prasad. Next slide.
Amar, we're not able to hear you right now.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. So I was mentioning about India being mega biodiverse countries, one among top 10. When it comes to bird count, the avian count also, we have very rich fauna. For example, almost the world's entire bird count, the birds which have been identified so far and documented, is more than 10,000. More than 10% of it is found in India. And when it comes to our own Mumbai city, Mumbai metropolitan region, so far we have documented around 378 species. And some of you will be really surprised to know the richness of the birds count that we have, because when it comes to United Kingdom, the entire Great Britain, they have almost 600 bird species. I think 607, something like that. And now if you look at it against the count of Maharashtra, only just one state of India, we have already reached over there. So that actually tells about the biogeographic diversity that India has, and also the climatic variation. So all this variation creates diverse habitat and thus creates great opportunity for birds to roost, to migrate, to reproduce. Next. Now, birds are really insane, I always say. Birds are some of the most successful groups of animal, which has evolved over millions of years and survived and thrived. Like look at some of the interesting facts that I have mentioned, that an Arctic tern can migrate almost 40,000 kilometers every year. And that is an equal to a complete circle around the earth. Amazing. And the best part of it is that the Arctic tern is also found in Mumbai. So on its migration path, it also visits our dear Mumbai. The European raven, the bird which is almost close to our house crow, can mimic human sound. And in ancient times, during wars, these birds were used as spies actually, or to fool enemies. A full-grown ostrich eye is as big as a cricket ball. Now compare that to our own eye size, and we realize how petty we are when it compared to many kinds of birds and animals. And then again, we have our friend peregrine falcon, which is fastest animal on the earth with the speed of 320 kilometers per hour. And again, we are blessed that this bird visits Mumbai every year during migration. So in fact, during winter season, if we are passing from Eastern Express Highway on the eastern side, you will see those tall electric towers. And on those towers, in fact, we have spotted and shot this particular peregrine falcon. So we are really lucky that Mumbai still hosts very diverse wildlife, and it is not as polluted as we think. We still have a great amount of habitats. Next. Okay. In Greek mythology, the king Zeus is the king of the skies, but the real king of the skies, of course, birds. And for that, they have really taken hard work. They have evolved for more than 120 million years ago, and their body is so adapted to be in the sky. For example, their bones are very strong, but they're completely hollow, reducing their body weight. They have air sacs in the lungs, which actually help in exchanging temperature with the atmosphere. Because when a bird is flapping its wings, it's actually generating a lot of heat, and that heat needs to go out of the body. So these air sacs help perfectly in dissipating heat out of the body to blood circulation. Then they have very strong muscles which are covered with feathers, and these feathers are smooth. There are 4 or 5 types of feathers which actually reduce friction with the air during flight. And when it comes to even during their poop, it's as silly as that, but even their poop is something which reduces body weight because it is actually a mixture of scat and urine. So the birds are real kings of the skies, and the highest bird, the bird which flies highest so far, has been recorded as Ruppel's griffon vulture, which flies as high as 37,000 feet in the sky. So amazing, is it? I mean, many of us feel that, oh, I wish we were bird, and I'm sure all of us as a kid have thought about it, that wish we could fly. And yes, it's a desire that entire mankind has, I think. Next. Okay, now let's get to some of the birds that we see in Mumbai. Some of the birds are common, but very unique, and most of them are rare. Again, this bird looks exotic, but it is very, very found in Mumbai, especially in areas which has tall trees, which has hollow trees. For example, of course, our own Borivali National Park. Then in Godrej, Piccoli, we have good forest. At Malabar Hill, again, we have tall trees and big hills. So all these areas host this particular bird called Indian grey hornbill. It's very easy to identify this bird because of the horn on the beak. If you look at the right side picture, you will see that the horn is bigger, and on the left hand side, the horn is quite smaller, because the left hand picture is of that of female and the right picture is of that of a male. But the most unique part or the most unique habit of this bird is its nesting behavior. It's one of the very peculiar nesting habits which very few birds show in the animal kingdom. The grey hornbill, first of all, they're monogamous, so they set their pairs for life. And when it comes to breeding, they find big hollow trees. They actually find some tree holes. The female will enter the tree hole, now the male will start closing the tree hole. Yes, it will actually bring mud and water. It will make paste of that mud. It will spray that complete mud on the tree hole and just leave a small hole. You can see in the right picture, the male is actually sitting on the tree hole, which is almost closed, and it has a berry in its beak, because now for next 2 months or 3 months, the female is going to be completely locked inside the nest, not coming out. The male's job is to feed it. So that's the highest parental care we can see in animal kingdom, where female is even compromising on her nutrition. The female will actually poop inside the nest, but that poop is also going to be helpful because nothing is waste in nature. The female will spread that poop in the nest to make it cool and dark, and that will regulate the nest temperature. So these are Indian grey hornbills, not very common, but yes, found in Mumbai. Next. Then we have my most favorite bird, one of the prettiest birds that we have, again found in scrubby or dense forest areas, Indian paradise flycatcher. In Marathi, we call it Swargiya Nartak. Swargiya Nartak because if you look at the tail of the male, it's very long. And when the male takes a flight, it looks like almost the tail is dancing. So the male has two color forms, white form and a brown form. You can see a brown bird also with the long tail, that is the brown form. And then we have silvery white form. The females do not have gracious long tail like a male, but the female will do her job perfectly of building the nest using cobwebs, grasses, leaves, and she will take care of the eggs and the babies, the chicks. So this is Indian paradise flycatcher. Again, not very commonly found in Mumbai, but if you keep a keen eye in the woody areas, you may be lucky to spot it. Next. Okay, these birds, we have heard a lot about it in our childhood, especially those who speak Marathi here. सुगरणीचा खोपा. सुगरणीच्या खोप्यावरती आपण अनेक गोष्टी ऐकल्यात, अनेक कविता वाचल्यात, आणि त्याच्याविषयी अनेक दंतकथा पण आहेत. So this is Baya weaver nest, Baya weaver bird. Now again you will see the male is very bright yellow in color with red eye, very flashy, very attractive, whereas the female on the right side is very drab in color. So in nature, it's completely opposite to human beings. You know, in nature, the male has to be bright, the male has to be attractive, the male has to sing and dance because the male has to attract female. Its main job is courtship. The female is going to be drab and dry because she has to camouflage and she has to hide from the predators. Her main job is to save chicks from enemies. So she is going to hide as much as possible. Now, the nesting story of Baya weaver is also quite funny. These males have to collect at least 3,000 to 4,000 grass blades or the coconut leaf blades and build his nest. The male will start building the nest. It will create a base, as you can see in the picture, and then it will do its courtship song and dance. The female will attract, the female will visit the nest, and the first thing the female will do is she will try to destroy the nest. Yes, she will try to destroy the nest. But if the nest expands, if the nest is strong, then the female will accept the male and they will complete the nest. If the nest breaks down, that means that hard work is wasted. But the male is quite smart. It's not going to really waste hard work completely. The male knows that if the nest is of not good quality, it will be complete waste. So one male will start building 2 or 3 or 4 nests together.
Amar, we are not able to hear you now.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Amar.
Yeah, okay. I can't see the screen. Is the screen on?
The screen is on. You're not able to see it?
No.
Okay, I'm just going to go back and start sharing again. Can you see it now?
Mm, not yet. Okay, problem. We can still continue. I have the presentation.
Yeah, maybe you can sort of open it on your own computer while our participants are able to see it, what I'm sharing. And
Okay.
yeah, so we are on the BioWeaver slide right now.
Okay. So could you hear the description or I was disconnected?
I think at least I heard till the point that the male starts building 2 or 3 different nests, and I think then you
Correct.
got
Correct.
disconnected.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's how the bird is highly polygamous, and this is one of the adaptations in which the male really has to do hard work, and the successful males and females will pair, and then the reproduction begins. So again, that's one of the adaptations, of course, because one thing that we have observed in nature is animals which are more vulnerable to predators, they will have more offsprings and they will reproduce more actually. This is to ensure that the progeny kind of continues and there is steady population. Next.
So we have the Rufous woodpecker now.
Correct, correct. Now I can see the slides. Yeah, thanks. Okay. So Rufous woodpecker is again one amazing story. I'm sure those who have gone for nature trails have heard about it, but it is pretty uncommon to find it in the forest of Mumbai. We often find it in Goregaon area of BNHS reserve, where I have seen many times. This is friends Rufous woodpecker, and the woodpeckers itself, the entire group of woodpecker is an amazing group. I always see that because as we know, as we have learned in our childhood, that the woodpeckers have to really strike a wood or to strike a tree many times to find its food. But not many know that woodpeckers can actually strike a tree 20 times per second. Yeah, I'm not joking. It is 20 times per second. So one can understand how strong the bird brain has to be and what smart engineering it is inside the head. So when it comes to woodpeckers, first of all, their brain is very small. So what they have done is how they have evolved is their brain size is quite small. So and then it is cushioned. It has a cushion of a membrane, particular membrane called hyoid membrane around it. That makes it completely, what do you say, protected from any kind of trauma. Now, when the bird is actually striking it 20 times per second, even the strikes have to be in same direction and of constant speed. This is again one of the evolution that it has kind of achieved. Now, the rufous woodpecker, among other woodpeckers, is a special bird, I always say, because this is perfect example of symbiosis. You know, there are red ants called crematogaster ants in the forest, and these ants are quite ferocious, quite short-tempered, you can say. If you go and actually disturb this ant nest or disturb the tree on which ant nest is there, they will spread all along the branches. They will jump on the animal which is disturbing it, and they will spray formic acid. So this formic acid gives quite a burning or irritating kind of feeling to the skin of the predator, and that is how they have evolved to defend themselves. But what bird watchers have observed is Rufous woodpecker actually uses this ant nest and lays eggs inside this nest. The, not only that, we have also seen the woodpecker actually feeding on ants. And the chicks emerge. The chicks and eggs are unharmed by the ants. And so this has been a kind of topic of study, that how do ants allow this rufous woodpecker to use its nest, and not only that, also feed on it. So one theory is obviously theory of symbiosis, and it says that when the woodpecker brings food for its chicks, a lot of food actually is dropped in the nest, and that also becomes food for the ants. So it's a kind of mutualism, or it's an exchange where the bird gets shelter and the ants get food, and that's how they help each other. And in that process, even if the ant society loses a few ants, it is okay with it. So that is how, that are the strange ways of nature, how it works. This was Rufous woodpecker, again found in dense forests of Mumbai. Next. ओके, आपण सगळ्यांनी चातक पक्षी नक्की ऐकलेला आहे. कालिदासाच्या काव्यामध्ये पण चातकाचं वर्णन आहे. This is supposed to be rain harbinger. It's one of the migratory birds. India is actually very important region in terms of bird migration. There are 3 flyways, or the world has actually identified 9 routes of bird migration. These are 9 important flyways from which birds migrate, or they pass through the migration, and 3 of them are found in India. Mumbai also falls on one of the pathways. Pied-crested cuckoo, ज्याला आपण चातक म्हणतो, is migratory bird visiting India all the way from South Africa. And pied means, of course, black and white, so it gets its name from the color. Now, the amazing thing about this particular bird and the entire koel group, this cuckoo also belongs to the same koel, Asian koel, which we can hear nowadays. So the cuckoo family, or the koel family, has a unique adaptation of reproduction that is called as brood parasitism. In simple word, what they do is they have avoided the hardship of building the nest, laying eggs and protecting them, and bringing food for chicks. What they do is actually they find some host birds, particularly birds like crows, which look almost same and have similar egg shape and color. And these cuckoos will go in pairs. The male will distract the host bird. The male will sing and scream and kind of flutter around the nest, distracting the host parents. So the obviously host parents, by then that time their nest is ready, their eggs are ready. So they will actually follow this male cuckoo to shoo it away. In that short time span, the female will visit the host nest. It will actually throw away the eggs of the host bird. It will lay its eggs in a few minutes and then escape. And by that time, male cuckoo also has gone far away. The host birds will return to the nest, and the poor birds will never realize that actually the female cuckoo has laid her eggs in their nest. The chicks of the cuckoo will emerge, and the host birds will raise those babies as their own babies. And this phenomenon is found in entire cuckoo family, except just one member, and that one member also we have seen many times in our gardens. ज्याला आपण भारद्वाज म्हणतो, भारद्वाज पक्षी, कौकल in English. Only Bharadwaj is the member of the Kaukal family or the koel family that builds its own nest. All other cuckoos don't build their nest, and that is called as brood parasitism. Next. Okay, we also have an expert hunter over here, expert predators. You will see a black band on the eyes. So it is also called as robber's bird. It's also called as butcher's bird because of its strange habit. This is an expert hunter, and it feeds mainly on insects that are flying in the air, like honeybees, wasps, dragonflies, damselflies, and many other bugs and beetles, or even butterflies. So this bird will actually hunt those insects from the air. But the unique habit that this bird has it may not eat the food immediately. It will find a thorny tree, and it will actually hang the food to its thorns. It will impale the prey on the thorns of the tree. So like how a butcher actually hangs meat, you have seen in the market, in the same way. And that is why it is called as a butcher bird. This bird is spatially insectivorous, exclusively insectivorous. So actually its presence means that the habitat is rich and we have good insect diversity in that area. So in that sense, birds also play a very important role as indicators. They will indicate the kind of habitats around them for ecological studies. Next. Then we have an amazing mimicry artist here. मराठीमध्ये आम्ही याला कोतवाल म्हणतो. कोतवाल किंवा पुलिस बर्ड पण म्हणतात. कोतवाल because this is an excellent mimic and it uses mimicry, of course, for self-defense. When this particular bird nests and when there are eggs and chicks, it's going to be very short-tempered and very aggressive. If it sees any predator coming to its nest, say for example, if a kite is approaching the nest, it will mimic another bird like shrike or babbler. The shrike is also another hunter. So when it mimics the call of a shrike, the kite thinks that there is a shrike nearby, so the kite will not attack the nest. So we have observed that this bird, this drongo, can actually mimic 10-15 different types of birds, and with mimicry, it will save its chicks and eggs. Now there are smaller birds like say tailor bird or bulbul. These birds, they know that wherever there is drongo nest, that area is going to be very secure. So this particular small species, they will build their nest near the drongo, but it's also a risk because drongo is very aggressive and sometimes it will also feed on eggs of these smaller birds. So it's a risk in a way that the smaller birds take. That's how nature works. It's always a game of risk and sort of trial and errors. So this was our racket-tailed drongo or kotwal or police bird. Next. Then we have some birds which are very uncommon. These are migratory visitors. You will find them in groups. Foraging, that means flying in the sky or roosting on a tree. This is open-billed stork. And friends, if you see the bill of this bird, you will see there is a gap. And that gap is not just a coincidence. It's a classic case of evolution. Open-billed stork or Asian open-billed stork, they feed exclusively on shells. And as we know that shells are tough to break. So this particular gap is used to keep the shells inside the beak, and then the beak is pressed. When the hard beak is pressed, the shells will break open and the stork will eat the soft animal inside it. The bird also teaches us that they have evolved over millions of years and have adapted to particular habitat or particular food. So when we disturb these habitats, it's not possible for many of these species to adapt very fast and then they will disappear or they will go extinct. That is why we always say that, human being may be a smart animal, but we also have to be a considerate one. This was Asian open-billed stork, a migratory wader found in wetlands of Mumbai. This is found more in watery grasslands, creeks, seashores, and rivers and ponds and lakes. Next. Okay, I think flamingos are very popular, and especially now I'm sure you must have seen the video of thousands and lakhs of flamingos in Navi Mumbai on Palm Beach Road. And yes, they are delight to eyes. They are lovely birds, but they are also sort of indicator. The beautiful pink color, fire-like color that we see, they get that color from the algae in the water. So algae are basically microscopic plants and animals that thrive in the water. They are a very important part in food chain. And you can see the beak of the flamingos have a particular shape, and from inside, they are very unique. So the flamingos are filter feeder, which means they will insert their beak in the water and they will drink the water. Now, when they drink the water, they will take it and again throw it out. But while they are throwing it out, the beaks have sieve-like structures inside the beak. So these sieves will filter the algae. The algae will be kept inside and only water will be thrown outside. So the algae are consumed and they have certain pigments, and these pigments bring the bright, beautiful pink color to the birds. In Marathi, we call them as Agni Pankhi. आणि खूप सार्थ नाव आहे अग्निपंखी, जणू काय आग लागली आहे पंखांना. खूप छान लाल रंग आहे तो. But these birds also indicate something. They indicate health of the ecosystem. So to make it simple, these birds are waders. That means they have very long legs and they prefer shallow waters. So till 1990s, we had very small population of flamingo in Mumbai. After 90s, the population started increasing. And now we have literally flamingos in thousands and lakhs. So they actually indicate that the wetlands of Mumbai are in danger. Because of the pollution, the algae are increasing. Because of the siltation, the height of the water body in Mumbai is decreasing, and that is attracting these flamingos to Mumbai. Also, these are migratory birds visiting us from Gujarat, especially Kutch region and the Bhuj area. And over there, the flamingos migrate during winters. In Gujarat, the wetlands are again in danger. Many wetlands are disappearing because of the unplanned development or construction or reclamation. So now these flamingos prefer Mumbai, and some of them have become resident population of Mumbai. So while we appreciate flamingos, we also need to understand that they are giving us a warning of ecosystem health, that is the Thane Creek ecosystem. And we need to really plan in that sense. Next. So we are coming to the end of the talk. The point here is that all the beautiful birds that you see in this picture are found in Mumbai. And you will also notice different beak shapes. All these beak shapes are not a coincidence. The birds have evolved based on their food and habitat, be it a woodpecker or a whimrel. You know, for example, the avocet and whimrel, you can see two birds next to each other. They have almost same beak, but look at the direction. The avocet beak is turned upwards, whereas the whimrel beak has turned downwards. So both birds are found in the same habitat, and they are going to probe mudflats for smaller insect and worms and shells. But in that also they are specialized. So they have divided their habitats. The whimrel is going to be finding its food deeper in the mud, whereas avocet will find its food somewhere on the top surface in the shallow areas. So all the birds have evolved over millions of years. And as I was saying, that we have to be really considerate when we plan our development, because that's how they survive, and they can't really adapt very fast. Next. I'm sure many of you love birds. In fact, we are here because we like birds. We want to do something for the birds. And there are simple ways of conserving birds around us. The first way is plant. Please plant trees and plant Indian species. You know, Indian and naturalized species which have fruits that are actually ready food for the birds, or grains or seeds or flowers. The birds also love nectar of the flowers, some particular species. So just Google search on Indian plants or naturalized plant species, and you will get many examples. Second thing to do is install bird feeders and bird baths. Now there is a kind of debate about bird feeders, because in a way, yes, it is good to kind of help birds with the food, but it may also disturb their natural instincts, you know, because obviously in nature, they are adapted to find their own food, and by actually spoon feeding, we are disturbing their habit. Not only that, we have found that on these bird feeders, we will find mainly crows or pigeons or squirrels. So these three species, mainly crows, pigeons, and squirrels, they actually dominate, and they don't let the forest birds come near the bird feeder. So if you are installing a bird feeder, you have to be very observant and ensure that only forest species are actually using this. Bird bath is, yes, please do it in your windowsills, in your gardens, especially now in this summer season. Many birds will now fall down with the heat strokes, and in the cities, natural water bodies are less or disappearing. So we really need to help birds with drinking water, and also to regulate their body temperature. Bird boxes, you can buy bird boxes in the market. There are several NGOs and shops which sell these. Each bird box or each bird nest is specialized, because the size of the entry or the hole that you can see is kind of customized for different species. So if we are buying a bird box for a sparrow, it's going to be very different from that for the parakeet or for an owl. So obviously those NGOs will explain to you and you can select appropriate bird box. In Mumbai, we have also some NGOs which rescue and rehabilitate wild birds, like RAW and PAWS are the two examples that I have given. But there are many other NGOs that are in Mumbai which actually rescue and treat birds in distress. And then last and most important is connect with the NGOs. There are so many NGOs we have in Mumbai, BNHS, WWF India, Sanctuary Asia, Sprout, Paryavaran Rakshata Manch in Thane, Vanashakti, Nature Forever. And I'm sure there are other local groups over here. Know more about them, find more about them. Please volunteer, join their bird watching trails or buy these products from the NGOs. All the NGOs that I have mentioned also sell these bird bath, bird feeders and bird boxes. So we can actually install them near our windows and conserve birds. So this was just an introductory talk about birds. So we decided not to push in too many bird species and just give glimpses of some rare birds. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be open for questions and answers now.
Thank you, Amar. We'll just open for questions and let me see. We seem to have a few questions coming up. So Amar, I'm going to read out the questions so that it becomes easier for you to answer them. So Bhushan has asked, what are the Marathi names? And I think you have mentioned Marathi names for almost all of them. So that's taken care of, I suppose.
Prasad,
Yeah.
Like as we decided, we will also circulate some e-books and some names, which will have Marathi names of all the birds.
Perfect. So sorry, I forgot to tell you, Amar has kindly agreed to give us a list of NGOs and various websites and some books to read, Marathi booklet especially, he has said. And
Mobile apps.
Mobile apps and certain resources. And I will be emailing them to you and you will get it in your email so that you can use it as you like. So you take away home something which you can use and also circulate with your family and friends who could not attend this webinar. So Apurva is asking, when do they have two different forms or they have two different types of Indian paradise flycatcher males?
Yeah, Purva. So the brown form and white form that she's talking about. So these forms actually they change based on the breeding season. So and also age. So the sub-adult or the juvenile males will be brown in color, whereas adult males will be white in color. And also in the breeding season, one thing that I didn't mention is I didn't want to make it too technical because bird plumage. There is in fact a science to study birds from plumage, and birds can, some species can also change their plumage or feathers based on their age and based on the season around. So that's how the color will change.
Okay, so then just a minute, I'm going on to the next question. Apurva again has asked why brood parasitism is not identified by the birds when the other like coel comes into their nests. Why do they miss it?
Okay, now that's a mystery. We don't have answers for everything in nature. At least I don't know. Not many birds are in brood parasitism. The coel group is kind of somehow specialized. And actually, these are some of the tricks by all the animals, not just birds, to sort of minimize their work or to rather increase chances of reproduction, success rate.
Okay. Shripad has asked a very interesting question, like he always does. Does the cuckoo come and visit the chicks after they hatch?
No, the parent literally forget. The parents
Okay.
the eggs and chicks. They're done with their job.
Rajesh Khandekar is asking, I had read somewhere that the peregrine falcon isn't actually the fastest flyer, but the fastest diving bird.
I think I will also have to cross check. As far as I have read that it is fastest bird with 320 km/h, but we can always check, Rajesh.
Okay, and maybe I can add it into the email.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Manish has asked, in many societies, they tell us not to give grains as there is a feeling that pigeons spread the disease. And to add to that, Amar, I also want to say that many of these grains then fall down and rats eat them. And then the rat menace increases. What is your
Yes.
take on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, it is true. Yes, true.
So how do we deal with like having a
So
bird watch?
that's why when you are installing this bird feeder, you have to be very observant. You know, the way you are installing it, it has to be perfectly hanging. It has to be suitable only for birds and not other animals.
Okay. Rita Jain has asked, which is the bird that cries? Did you do it at night?
Yes, that
I
is
had,
Titvi in Marathi or red wattle
oh,
lapwing. Red
hmm,
wattle lapwing, there is an interesting story behind it. आपण असं म्हणतो की हा पक्षी अशुभ आहे. It's a bad sign.
yeah.
But really, as Rita says, Rita knows it's a nocturnal bird. And it's useful because whenever this bird spots any danger, then it gives that did you do it call. So actually one has to be alert.
Okay, that's nice. Lata has asked, we live in a society in Andheri where there are lots of birds and we enjoy their varied sounds, especially in the morning. Is there a way to record these sounds?
Yes, Lata. Actually, I'm going to share a website which has only bird calls on it. And one of the activities that I enjoy is actually bird quiz, where we actually play bird calls and people have to guess what bird it is. It's a very interesting activity, and you can also play with your kids. So you will get that website. You can hear those bird calls and tally with the calls that you hear in your house.
Excellent. Suti has asked a very, very important question, Amar. She has asked why we cannot see Mr. Amar Deshpande. The country wants to know. So I'll answer that question. We can't see Amar Deshpande because I goofed up on the settings and now Amar can't switch on his video because I think there's some problem with the settings that I did. We did a trial seminar beforehand where everything was working perfectly, but you know how it is. When you actually do it, it doesn't. So that's why we can't see Amar Deshpande. Sorry about that. Moving on to the next question, Kalpana Sathe has asked, in which areas do we find coppersmith?
Coppersmith barbet or tambat in Marathi are the commonest in city. They are literally everywhere around us, believe me. They are in all suburbs of Mumbai. And in the morning, you hear this call, tuk, 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 tuk. That call is of coppersmith barbet. It's green in color, very small, bright yellow throat and red head.
Gaurav is asking, I want to know about mangrove forest conservation and trip. Maybe Amar, after answering this question, when you're sending the email, we can add, details to that email also.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell him a little
Yeah, we
bit?
can talk. We
Yeah.
can talk about it later. Yeah.
Ajay Nayak is asking, does the butcher bird remember where it hangs its insects?
Yes, yes, very well, very well. They are not dumb as we think of them. Remember.
Okay, excellent. Kiran Thakur is very optimistic and is asking, after lockdown, do you plan to have bird watching program in western suburbs of Mumbai? And she or he, I'm not sure, would like to join.
Yeah, actually, we can do that.
So yes, we are all really looking forward to the end of lockdown, and
Yeah, yeah.
we should plan.
Maybe we
Amar,
can do a bird walk in Godrej Mangroves itself.
and Amar, do you want to tell us about which season is actually best for bird watching, or which season is good for which types of birds to watch?
Yeah, actually, every season will have its own beauty, obviously. But as Prasad, you say from October till March, Mumbai gets migratory birds as visitors. So certain birds you will spot only in this season, especially around in forest and wetlands of Mumbai. So all those waders I was mentioning and ducks and also falcons and all. So from October to March, you can see migratory birds. Then during monsoon, again, birds are very active because that is the reproduction time. So our resident birds are very active, but that time the canopy also is very thick because it's monsoon and it's green everywhere. So you have to really smartly spot them. But that's fun again. It's like literally you are becoming a detective. And then also there are grasslands around Mumbai and hilltops where you will find particular birds. So there is almost every corner of Mumbai where you can spot birds actually, if you decide.
Percy has asked, is there a symbiotic relationship between hawks and Rufus tripi?
Just a minute. I have missed the question. What is the question?
The question is there a symbiotic relationship between hawks and Rufus tripi?
Actually, I'm not sure. We have seen symbiotic relationship between mammals and tree pies, where mammals actually stand below the trees. So, Prasad, tree pie is a bird, and that bird loves to pick food or dead particles from the body of other animals. So, spotted deer and sambar, these kind of animals, they will actually stand and tree pie will help them. So again, it's a symbiotic relationship. With hawk, we will have to check again. I'm not very sure.
Okay. Then we have a question from Anand Pendharkar. And before we take the question, let me just tell everyone Anand Pendharkar is again a friend of ours. And Anand is the one who runs an NGO called Sprouts. And they do a great deal of work for environment conservation. Anand also runs a website, and we will be obviously including his website and details also in the email. I remember many years ago attending a beautiful nature trail in the Dharavi Nature Park conducted by Anand, and it was awesome. Thank you, Anand. So, Anand's question is Amar, can you elaborate on the status of birds of Mumbai rivers and what would be happening to them with concretization? That's a loaded question.
I know it has quite a, it's not a very brief answer actually, but yes, Mumbai's wetlands, be it rivers, lakes, ponds, creeks, are certainly kind of threatened because of unplanned development and also relaxation of laws that protect them. And citizens need to really participate in activities or support NGOs that are having public interest litigations to protect our wetlands. One way of protecting them also is to visit these wetlands. In fact, first of all, we need to visit them and know, be it Mithi River, be it Thane Creek, Talave wetland, Panjay wetland, they're all over us. And it's not just about this particular wetlands, also the buffer zones around these wetlands are also important because they are also habitats as we are aware. So it's not a exactly very bright picture when it comes to the status of wetlands in Mumbai, but I'm sure we all need to be hopeful and keep fighting for that.
Anand has also asked another question. Are sparrows really reducing in Mumbai city, and have there been studies proving the same?
There has been reduction in Mumbai sparrows in last few decades. There have been studies about it, but many areas are also showing again that sparrows are back, which is to do mainly with food and with architecture because we don't know how sparrows nest, and also sparrows require grains and caterpillars and grubs and insects. So, of course, compared to the past, sparrows number has reduced. But in some areas at least they are still there going strong. So we need to ensure again that we install some bird boxes or we provide some spaces for their nesting and less use of chemicals or replacing floor cleaners and soaps with organic options is something that citizens can do to protect birds around them.
Okay. So Mazarine Dubash has asked a question which troubled me for many years when we lived in Andheri. He's saying that my brother-in-law says that a koel sings continuously outside his window at night, and he assumes it's a koel. Why does it sing at night? And can he do something to stop about it? I mean, I was awakened for years at like 4 o'clock in the morning because of koel,
Yes.
and it's so romantic to you live near where koel sings for you, but it's such a nuisance sometimes to wake up every day at 4 o'clock because of it. So, Amar,
Yeah,
what do
yeah.
we
So
do about it?
I don't know. The coils are early risers, sure. And as you say, morning 4, 5, 6 is the time when they start. And but remember, this only happens in breeding season in summer. Okay, that's a courtship call. This doesn't happen throughout the year. It's only summer season for 2 months. This happens. So I think they tolerate us for throughout the year. We can tolerate it for 2 months.
So, Hemant is asking, where can we find lapwing in Mumbai?
Lapwings are found in grasslands or in deserted areas. They are not the literal, not a very great forest birds. So in open playgrounds, again, these are the habitats of lapwings. Uh, Many spots, like in Victoria itself, in grasslands, we have lapwing as a regular visitor to us.
Kalpana has a follow-up question on the coppersmith. She's saying that we hear the coppersmith call, but have never been able to see it. So yeah, actually it's not a question.
Kalpana, the bird is going to be very camouflaging. It's bright green in color. You have to keep your eyes wide open and find it out.
Nitin is asking which is the best time of the year to visit Vicroy mangroves to watch birds.
Again, as I said, every season has beauty and its bird population. So all the seasons. But yeah, maybe winter and summers are easier from our perspective.
Okay. So Mary has asked a little different question in a different way. She's asking, will decline in number of flamingos help to improve the mangrove ecosystem?
Not really. See, Mary, basically what's happening is flamingos don't depend on mangroves. Okay. Flamingos are wetland birds and they depend on the water body and the food available over there. So when I was talking about pollution, the increasing number of algae actually indicates increasing pollution. And so the flamingos are giving us a warning or some sort of indication. It's the other way around. If you actually dredge Thane Creek or if you start restoring Thane Creek, automatically the water flow will increase. If the pollution goes down, the algae count will go down, and then the flamingo number will go down naturally as a result of that. So right now we can't interfere. I mean, just reducing number of flamingos is not going to help us.
Okay. Ronnie, who's also an excellent photographer and has taken amazing photos and goes for very regular birdwatch trails, has asked, how can we visit Godrej mangroves? How do we take permissions and what is the procedure for that?
So actually now I think we should talk about Godrej mangroves a bit because it's the second question. So Godrej has conserved a large tract of mangrove forest as big as almost 405 cricket stadiums. Yes, I'm not joking. If you bring 400 stadiums together, that large mangrove forest Godrej has conserved along Ghatkopar, Vikhroli and Kanjurmarg. And that area, some part of it is open for public, but only through guided nature trails. So there is no random entry. You can contact us. The email ID is mangroves@godrej.com. We will again send it by mail, mangroves@godrej.com, and you can block a date. We require at least 20 participants in a group, and then we conduct these thematic nature trails. Nature trails may be focusing on mangroves, birds, butterflies, insects, photography, trees, wildflowers, depending on the interest of the group. You can go to our website, mangroves.godrej.com, and find our contact details. I'm repeating the website, mangroves.godrej.com.
Excellent. So before I move on to the next question, I just want to acknowledge somebody who's attending the webinar. I cannot, of course, take the name, but this is someone whom I know, and the person and the family is currently going through, some sort of quarantine because of COVID. And I'm really happy to see the person on the webinar. And thank you very much for joining. And I hope this webinar has helped to take a little bit of your stress off. And I hope you and your family remains healthy and does well. Thank you. Thank you for joining. The next question is from a cousin of mine, Avdut. Avdut is asking, what is a simple way to differentiate between crow and a cuckoo?
The eye color. Cuckoo or koyal eye color is going to be red, and crow is going to be again black. The other difference is also in the color. Cuckoo will have metallic blue shining sort of tinge. Crow will not have it. And as some of you may be aware, female and male koyals look completely different. So maybe what we could do is perhaps we could have a talk on common birds of Mumbai, where we show these birds that we hear every day but don't see. Maybe we could do a presentation on that to identify the.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Amar. We could do that sometime in near future. We have now around only 10 minutes left, so we'll sort of go through these questions quickly. Percy is asking, what birds do you see this time in May, June?
In May, June, what kind of?
What kind of birds do you see in May and June?
So by May now, the migratory birds have started moving back to their own countries. Now we will have more of resident birds. And in fact, in this time right now, the birds are hyperactive because their reproduction cycle matches with the natural cycle. In the monsoon, they will have plenty of food. So right now they're breeding. That means the courtship is going on and the nest building is going on. Find them around you. You will see them nesting also, and when the monsoon arrives, by that time the chicks will be hatching out from the eggs, and so that there are more grubs, caterpillars, and fruits in nature for them.
Great. Ajay is asking, he has never seen a nest of a myna. Where do these birds nest?
On trees like rain tree, people tree, on all large trees you can see them.
Okay. And Amit is asking, do we see peacocks in Mumbai?
Yes, we do. We see them in, of course, national park, Sanjay Gandhi National Park. We see them at Raj Bhavan. We see them at Babulnath, especially where Parsi, this one, what you call, Tower of Silence,
Tower of Silence is there, yeah.
around that. There
Yeah, we
also
recently
this
saw
peacock
some lovely
population.
pictures of peacocks walking over. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
Great that you mentioned Raj Bhavan. I'm not sure many of you would be aware that Raj Bhavan actually allows a guided tour of Raj Bhavan, and they show beautiful wildlife in there, and you get to see a lovely sunrise and a breakfast. And sometimes, like when I went, we actually met the Rajyapal also, and it's completely. I think it costs 10 rupees or something. You have to go to their website and then register for it, and the registration is open only on 10th of every month, so you have to go on 10th of every month to book for the month. Of course, with COVID you can't do that, but once that's over, it's an amazing trail. You start at 6 in the morning and you finish by 9, and I totally recommend that to everyone. Excellent. So Rita is asking, how many offsprings does the gray hornbill have in one season?
One or two, because it's going to be difficult job to feed the babies. And of course, as you see, the bird size is large. It's a strong bird. So as I said, the weaker birds will have more eggs and more offsprings. The stronger ones will have less.
Okay. Mary has posted a question by her son, Johan. He's asking, are there any evolutionary or habit similarity between the examples of the birds shared in this presentation?
I actually haven't got this question completely, but I think I can connect with Mary. I know her. So maybe I will talk to her personally and find it out what she really means.
Okay, perfect. Um,
Yeah, Ronnie's question.
Ronnie's question is about.
So Ronnie, that is that what you saw last time you visited. I suppose you're talking about mangroves and the forest. We have golden jackals in Mumbai. We don't have foxes actually. So what you must have seen is a golden jackal.
And Nitin is asking, are ravens, ज्यांना आपण मराठीमध्ये डोमकावळा म्हणतो, are more territorial than crows? Are they more aggressive?
Yes, yes, definitely. Because डोमकावळा आपण जो बोलतो, jungle crow, that is more of a forest bird and it is more aggressive.
Okay, they look scary though. Deepali is asking that some experts say that bird feeders make birds lazy, which actually you mentioned.
I actually kind of agree with Deepali.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Sanjay Thakur is asking, do birds resort to some sort of intoxication? Do they like to have a party on a Saturday night and get drunk?
but there are birds which actually find fruits or berries which are intoxicating, and they do actually have party, as he says. Rosy starlings feeding on berries in mangroves.
Nice. I think we are done with questions of the participants. Aman, I have a question for you. You did mention about Chatak Pakshi, which Kalidas mentioned. And what made me think is Kalidas was like, what, 1500 years ago? And it's interesting to see that this is a migratory bird, which has been coming ever since then, and
Yes.
we have been having it. So sometimes I think literature also gives us a peak view of what has been the flora and fauna and the evolution around it. And do you know of any other references from literature which talk about this?
Jatayu, vulture.
That's nice. So I think we are coming to an end to this seminar, and Amar, it was an amazing, amazing webinar, and I have learned a lot. I mean, I had no idea about most of the things that you mentioned here. So awesome! I'm going to share this link on the YouTube. So we are recording this on YouTube. So at the end of it, Amar is going to send me the resources. I'm going to email all of you those resources. Those will also include contact details for Amar. So if you need any more questions or you want to arrange a nature trail in Godrej Mangroves after COVID, you can connect with him. So thank you very much everyone for joining. We had around 65 people at any given point on the webinar. That's awesome. So and I hope you found it interesting and relaxing. I wish all of you a good health and a speedy, recovery from this COVID crisis for all of us. And thank you very much, Amar, for sparing your time, making this presentation and going through this for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prasad. Thanks to all the participants for interest and patience.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.